Welcome into Let's Talk Football Live. Dan Fates, Mike Catalana. I'm Jenna Cottrell. Before we get started, want to say make sure that you send in your comments, questions, concerns, anything Bills related. We would love to hear from you on Facebook Live as well as on YouTube. And we're going to talk about a lot tonight. There is a lot to break down. Yeah. Dan, the defense, the offense, the coaching.
It's funny what 2 weeks can do to a team, Mike. Flying high after coming home from Vegas.
Yeah.
And then, Mike, what's your favorite saying about the NFL?
Well, there's the one about you're either humble or you're about to be humbled.
That's my favorite.
This team's been humbled for the last 2 weeks. Yeah, they have been humbled the last 2 weeks. So what we can talk about, too, is, yes, they played two really good teams. I think what's concerning is the way they played in those two games.
Yeah, we're going to talk everything. We're also going to talk about their matchup with the Jets ahead, our predictions on that game as well. A lot, though, to break down because there's a lot that we've seen from this Bills team that has been, I want to say uncharacteristic, but we've seen in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's kind of been building, but as Mike said, maybe the best thing to do is, to get right is playing the as Mike so calls them, lovingly calls them the Jeffs. They're not the Jets, they're the Jeffs. That's an NFL team.
Yeah. Mike, that's your favorite team, huh?
What's that, the Jets?
The Jeffs.
Paying attention, Mike?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm with you.
Okay, good. All right, we're going to break everything down coming up very shortly. Make sure, again, to send in your comments, questions, concerns on YouTube as well as on Facebook Live. We're going to get started very, 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 very shortly.
It's time to give your opinion on the Bills and the NFL. Let's talk football live. Now, here's the 13 Wham Sports Team.
All right, welcome into Let's Talk Football Live, presented by Connors and Ferris. The Bills losing their last two games straight. Dan Fates, I'm Jenna Cottrell. Mike Catalana from his home tonight. He's having a limited day, I guess.
Veteran rest day.
Veteran rest day. He's
keeping him on the couch.
He's limited right now. But, Mike, I do want to start with you. This Bills team on a losing streak right now. A tough game against the Chiefs. Life comes at you pretty fast in the NFL, huh?
Yeah, you got to be ready for what comes up. And we talk about the schedule, and we knew it was going to be tougher this year, and you got a real dose of that, right? The weird way they got the Titans, but I think everybody has seen that's a really good Titans team. And then you play the champs coming off a loss, and they played well, very efficiently. And so here all of a sudden now you go from 4-0 flying high to 4-2 with a lot of questions. I think it's time to take a breath, get back to basics, and get a chance to play the Jets, right? I guess that's what you want.
Absolutely. In terms of the schedule, it works out pretty well. Before you interject, Dan, I do want to say, of course, this show is about your comments, your questions, your concerns, anything NFL related. Please be sure to write in. Of course, we'll answer it as well as we're on the air. But, Dan, you were ready to go. I saw you.
It's just so tough how 2 weeks can really shift maybe even a narrative of this team. Look, we thought this team wasn't good. We thought they were very good. Now we're talking about could they possibly be
the F word?
The F word. We're possibly talking about frauds.
I was going to say, that one.
so it's a tricky situation, and there seems to be a lot of finger pointing. Obviously, it's the defense, it's the running game, and stuff like that. But before people comment in saying they need to get a running game going or they need to get Devin Singletary going, I just don't think the running game is the issue. When the Bills were 4-0, nobody was talking about a running game or getting Devin Singletary involved.
Yeah.
When Josh Allen was 4-0 and was throwing for 300 yards, nobody cared that Devin Singletary was rushing for 30 yards a game. Like, last game against the Chiefs, yes, the Bills didn't run the ball well. They haven't run the ball well all this season, but Josh Allen completed 5 passes in the first half and finished with 122 yards. Like, if you want to point the blame anywhere, you got to look at Josh. And like I said, we have praised him on this show. We have praised him for how good he has played. But, Mike, he needs to take some of the blame for these last 2 losses because even though the Chiefs got the ball, they ran the ball down the Bills' throat, they still had a shot with 6 minutes to go if Josh can just play better.
Yeah, I would say this. I think he played okay in the Tennessee game. He made a couple of mistakes in that game, but all around, that was a poor team effort. And Allen kind of kept them in that as long as they stayed in that game. I thought this past week, especially the start he got off to, look, the Bills ended up, as you said, with a limited number of times with the football, but they should have scored early. I mean, he missed some open receivers. He missed an open receiver in the end zone. And then the next thing you know, the Chiefs are going on these 7-minute drives down the field, and the Bills aren't having the football. Yes, they got back in it at the end and had a chance, I guess, but he was not great. He didn't look good, and he did, in some ways, revert back to that old Josh. Again, it's against Kansas City, the Super Bowl champs, but he did look a little bit like the guy that was not really sure where he wanted to go with the ball and inaccurate.
Yeah, and that happens, though. Like, look around the league. Aaron Rodgers was humbled last Sunday against the Bucs. Like, Aaron Rodgers was probably playing as good as anybody as Russell Wilson in the NFL and still had a bad game. Like, we're not here to say Josh is no good, and people are commenting and saying Josh is reverting back. Like, or it could just be a hiccup. Right, Jenna?
I feel like sometimes Josh Allen needs these types of games. Like we saw it even last year against the Patriots, or even, the Texans game in the playoff game. I feel like Allen needs this kind of wake-up call. Look, you obviously would like to have a quarterback that's consistent and doesn't need that, but I think also at the same point, he is human. He did not have a great game, and he was the first one to say that post-game. But I would have to imagine if it happens more than, a couple games in a row, that's when I would very much get concerned. But he really didn't play that bad against the Titans. But, yes, against the Chiefs, that is on him.
The score in the Chiefs game felt closer than what the game actually really felt.
Yeah, the final score was not indicative at all of the feeling of that game. Even when they were down 6, I was like, this seems insurmountable to them because of the way Allen and the offense was playing.
And I looked at this offense, and it was a really weird game, and I had tweeted it out that there were some good things and some bad things with this game. Look, the Bills gave up 245 yards rushing. That's bad. But they only allowed 26 points to the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a step forward. But Josh Allen took a step. It was a weird thing. What they were missing was somebody to step up and make a big play.
Yes.
Like I said, in weeks before when they were in Vegas, Josh Norman stepped up and had the punch out. There have been plays throughout the game this season where either it's been Josh or, the defense in Vegas. But it was just one of those games where things just didn't click. And it started right from the start. You said it felt like the Eagles game last year.
Yeah, I did, because I felt like it was a game, even Mike, you were talking about the Saints game the year before that, of just the Bills getting run on and looking hapless almost at some points. And it's so interesting because I feel like so many Bills fans think of fourth quarter Josh Allen coming through, and we've seen him be able to take those huge strides forward, especially in the fourth quarter. But against the Chiefs, he just didn't have it. But you had a great question, Dan.
Thank you.
Yesterday.
Thank you. I come up with those every once in a while.
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
What is it, a blind squirrel?
Yeah, exactly. This team was so confident earlier in the year, 4-0, flying high. And I remember last year when the Bills started out 2-0, Micah Hyde said that confidence is a hell of a drug. And I thought that, wow, this Bills team, we talked about them dancing at practice and having so much fun, and it's natural. While the players will say this team is still confident, it is natural for a human and a football player to kind of be shaken a little bit. So I asked Josh Allen if there was anything that you do to get your confidence back. I've heard stories about NBA players looking back and watching their good games if they're in a scoring slump. And this is what Josh Allen said.
No, I think, the analogy of you using the basketball player, shoot or shoot, we're going to keep shooting. We're not going to let, like I said, the last couple games throw us in the tank. We're going to keep trying to do what we do. Coach Zabel's going to call a good game. We're going to go out there, we're going to execute how we're supposed to execute. And, once we get things rolling again on Sunday, that'll obviously instill some confidence. But we're a confident group, and we got a tough opponent this week, and we know that, and we're not going to, go in there and, we want to go in there and let loose. But we gotta make sure we're doing things the right way throughout the week and practicing hard and, trying to go execute a game plan that, Dave puts in front of us.
I love
Shooters
that. I love that. Mike, do you believe him that it's just, hey, shoot or shoot?
Yeah, it is. I would say that the issue with Josh, and, Patrick mentioned seriously, he's saying, he did take the blame. Absolutely. Josh did take the blame for the game. He does that. I think he's a natural leader, and I think he takes the blame sometimes when he doesn't even deserve it. I think it's the way he's wired, and I think that helps. But I think I don't know how you guys feel about this. I think we sort of got cheated out of the game I wanted to see. I wanted to see Mahomes and Allen back and forth. And Mahomes became a game manager, and Josh didn't look like Josh. So we didn't get that game, and it just never developed into that game. But I think what we're looking for is against the best teams, does Josh Allen step up?
Yeah.
And, he did in that second New England game. It just happened to be the best game Tom Brady played all year to beat the Bills. Because otherwise, I think that would have been a signature win, obviously beating the Patriots. So we want to see him against the good teams. And this year, the Rams are a good team. The Bills had them at home. It was early in the year, and they got the win. Mm-hmm. But, on the road against Tennessee and the Chiefs coming in, I think that's where we want to see. I think that's the next step in his evolution. But I do believe that that's in him, and I think he's going to throw the ball. And I think he's going to have a big game Sunday, and then it's going to come into that New England game, a team that can give everybody problems still with their defense. So he is a shooter. He will shoot. He'll take his shots. We just didn't see it. We just didn't see it on Sunday. He had it a limited amount of time, and he didn't look like Josh.
And I don't think it is fair to obviously the game that Allen had and the offense had, they would like it back. But I think we have to talk about the defense as well, because not only we talked earlier how, it was uncharacteristic for us to give up this many points.
It's
and then
not
28
anymore.
And then 32. And yes, the Chiefs only scored 26 points, but giving up, almost 250 yards on the ground, over 160 to a rookie. Mm-hmm. Dan, what is the issue with the Bills defense?
They don't know who they are anymore. And like I said, Mike talks about, they always used to talk about, especially when it was Shaq Lawson and it was Jordan Phillips, they had juice. That was the buzzword. They would bring juice. Whether it's not the crowd being here or anything like that, they just don't seem to have it. They're lacking playmakers. And I know Sean McDermott always talks about doing that 111th and just doing your role. At some point, somebody needs to just step up and make a play. Yeah. It's what Josh Norman did. But besides that, we said when Josh Norman punched that ball, I said that's the biggest play on defense this season so far. So that was 4 games in.
Yeah.
It's still the only big play that the Bills defense has made this year. There hasn't been a
We're
timely
heading into
sack.
Week 7.
There hasn't been a timely sack. There hasn't been. I guess you could talk about the goal line stand against Miami, maybe. But there just really hasn't. You haven't seen it. You haven't seen, Tremaine Edmonds play up to his standard. You haven't seen Ed Oliver make any plays. This is a real concern because I think this is who this defense is. You are who you are, and right now they're just not a good defensive team.
Which is so shocking, though. Mike, we know Sean McDermott is a defensive head coach. We know that it's a point of pride for McDermott. Why does this keep happening?
I will say this. I'm with Dan on the idea of somebody making a play, right? Last year when they needed one, Trey White made the plays.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think he did it at least 3 times. Significant plays. Interceptions. He had a Pittsburgh one. He had the one against Miami, the sealer against Cincinnati. He did that. Yes, they need that. And there have been times when things aren't going well, when the Rams were coming back. And they didn't really make a play. They just scored last in that game. But I think in this case, that 111 thing, there is something to that. I do think sometimes players are not in their positions. They are not doing their job. Maybe somebody's trying to do too much. The way the rush lanes are set up, it's close. Jerry Hughes keeps getting close, but can't get a sack.
Yep.
Yeah. Some of that's obviously on Jerry, but some of that's on the other guys on the line. They've invested a lot of money in this line, and they are not getting the results. So it's a combination of the things. But when all else fails, if somebody makes a play, you win the game. And nobody has done that either to bail them out.
I think that's one of the most surprising things is this is a very well-paid defensive line. It's not like you have guys that don't have the expectations of being able to get pressure, but still they struggle with that.
This is a well-paid defensive line. It's a well-experienced defensive unit. Yeah. This is a unit that has been together. I remember a couple years ago, maybe Sean's second year, he always talked about how young this team was, and they really weren't young. They were the 4th oldest team in the league, but he would say how young they are. You're hearing a lot of guys on the defensive side say, we still need time to gel, and we still need to get together, and Mike Hyde said we still need to connect. There aren't that many new pieces. I know it's Quinton Jefferson and it's Mario Addison, but those are veterans that know what to expect.
Yeah.
Their gap integrity, whatever you want to talk about, fundamentals, that Sean McDermott loves to talk about.
Sometimes it's effort too. I feel like. Mike,
Hot
is
take,
that out
Jenna.
of line? But sometimes I feel like there are effort things. effort issues, which is very uncharacteristic.
I would say it does look sometimes like a little bit of passion is missing on the defense. And I don't know, everybody likes yelling and screaming, and everybody thinks that, but there is somebody to get them fired up. And I was thinking about that defense. Trey White is a guy that plays his position, plays it well, and then sometimes reacts to the crowd. But I don't think of him as being the vocal guy with the rest of his team. I mean, Poyer is a quiet guy. Edmonds is a quiet guy. Milano, he doesn't appear to be a guy that talks a lot.
Right.
I'm not saying it's just talking, but it looks like they could use a vocal leader to add to everything else when they need something. And, and is it effort? There are times when the tackling's not strong. Guys are out of position. They look like a team that has been together too long almost.
Yeah.
We talk about this continuity, and Dan has said it a bunch of times. Everybody knows what its defense is going to do. Maybe they need to change it up a little bit, become a little more aggressive. I don't know. But, hey, you've got a defensive head coach and a very well-respected coordinator. It's their job to figure it out.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Micah Hyde, he's a guy that I feel like is one of the most vocal leaders on the team. Hasn't been a captain, obviously, but has been with the team for quite some time. And he was asked about the defense and how it's progressing. Listen to what he had to say today after practice.
You want to continue to get better. Obviously, that wasn't the case the last couple of weeks. We felt like we left some plays out there, but, finding our identity on defense is huge. And we're still trying to do that. And, with guys that are in and out of the lineup and all that, not creating excuses, but, we got to find that rhythm to be able to get off the field on third down, tighten up in the red zone, just stuff that we've been doing here in the past for so long.
I have such respect for Micah Hyde, but there's an excuse in there.
Yeah,
and all I know is that Lorenzo Alexander would never take excuses. Like when he was in the locker room last year, maybe that's, I don't know, we haven't talked about Lorenzo, and
the presence that he brings.
Yeah, I don't know. We talked about during the offseason and the loss of the leadership, and maybe that's part of it. But just to hear Micah Hyde say that, it's just kind of that question of we need to find out who we are. And it's like, for a decade, the Bills have known the franchise has been identified as a defensive team. They haven't had an offense.
Yeah.
They've been a defensive team. So it's very alarming to see some of the comments we're getting here on our Facebook page. Donnell Evans saying the Bills defense has an identity crisis. That's a great point, because up on Buffalo Plus right now, there is an article. You can watch Micah Hyde's full, complete interview and everything he had on his Zoom call today. But it's titled "The Bills, they do have an identity crisis."
Yeah.
So I don't know if Donnell is
identity theft.
Yeah, identity theft is what's kind of going on. Charles Perot saying the Bills lack depth at key positions. Yeah, that's part of the problem.
Yeah,
and then Gene Rowley says that there are no playmakers and no juice to get it started. Is it coaching at the DC position? I mean, Leslie Frazier was fine last year. Everybody, he was actually promoted to be an assistant head coach because of how good the defense have played. I think it's too easy to point the finger at the coaches and say they're not doing their job when Mike talked about it and you talked about effort and Mike's talking about passion to pin it on the coaches, Mike. It goes back to somebody just make a play.
Yeah. It is, and, it's going to end up being about playing time. I mean, McDermott took some heat last week when he benched Harrison Phillips and who else? Oh, and he benched
Trent Murphy.
How am I drawing a blank? Trent Murphy. I'm sorry, Trent Murphy on the defensive end. So he benched those two guys.
Senior moment.
But he's going to try something. Yeah, yes, it is. He's going to try something. He's going to try to get a different look out there, and why not? Justin Zimmer all of a sudden was the guy who was closest to making a play.
Yeah.
Now he's elevated. He's going to get more playing time, and you're going to see how he can do. I will find it, I don't know if you guys do, but when Sean McDermott has been asked about his involvement in the defense, he does not say, it's Leslie's defense and I help, but, and we're doing. He jumps right in.
Yeah.
I mean, he says it ebbs and flows. And right now we're down, and so he's going to be more involved. He's going to be hands-on. And honestly, I think he should be. I mean, he got where he is because of how good a defensive coach he is. He sees what the issues are. Let Daboll handle the offense. They've been good most of the year. He's got things to work on. But go over there and help Leslie, and don't be afraid to sit somebody down.
Yeah.
Give one of these younger guys. Hey, when I see Cam Lewis play, though he got banged up, I see effort.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I do see a guy who plays with a little passion.
Yeah.
So I think those guys are going to get their chances.
I agree. Can I say something, though? I was a little annoyed at McDermott post-game after the Chiefs lost because when asked about giving up 245 yards on the ground, he said, well, you know, you have to pick your poison.
Hot take, Jenna, today.
And that really bothered me because he's a guy that preaches accountability. And I think that's really important for the head coach. You see Josh do it after every game. Hey, that's on me. Even the games that it's really not. But let's be real. I mean, Sean McDermott.
It was a weird dynamic.
Yes, but that bothered me because, yes, while they limited the Chiefs to less than 30 points.
Right.
At the same point, they gave up a lot on the ground. It wasn't bend, not break. It was break. It was broken.
And it was also Mike.
Yeah,
Mike,
go
ahead.
And Jenna, yeah. Well, what I was going to say is they never stopped the Chiefs, basically.
Yeah.
Right? It was more like
it
was like Mahomes was going, I'm just going to keep handing off until you guys stop it. And so they were methodically going down the field. And then when he needed to make a play in the air or with his legs, he would run around, dump it off, first down, move on. They're not getting the 3-and-out stops. They're not flipping the field. They're not getting the turnovers.
And
they're
the
not
game clock.
pressuring the quarterbacks.
Yeah. And the Bills
Yes.
had, the Bills
and it
offense
kept your offense off the field.
Yeah.
The Bills ran 7 plays on offense in the second half. So like there's issues there.
You're not going to win the game if that's the case.
And what I you guys talk about, questioning effort. Like that's tricky for me. I'm not going to do that, but I will say there seems to be indecision or they're on their heels. And for the first 4 weeks of the season, they were the ones pushing the tempo. Even on defense, even though it wasn't pretty, at least there was a sense of urgency. I don't see that. Even in the offense, in Tennessee, they talked about how they got punched in the mouth, and it seemed like against the Chiefs, they were still licking their wounds. That they came out, Josh had 2 horrible pass attempts to start out the game, and then a football hit John Brown in the face mask, and they were punting. And it seemed like from that point on, they were like shell-shocked. Like, oh no, what are we going to do? It wasn't this confidence team, and that's what is alarming to me, is that they just don't seem sure of themselves like they were through the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, and I will say, too, and I was at practice yesterday, and it was raining cats and dogs and sideways, and, from here to literally England, it was all over the place. But the team seems so subdued. It seems so different. We've seen the guys have so much fun. You've seen all the videos online on Twitter, the guys dancing, doing the handshakes, having the time of their lives. It didn't seem like that. It seemed like a way more buttoned-up team, which, A, I think, okay, that shows me that maybe they are really trying to address the issues that they have. But, B, I'm like, be yourself, too. Yep. That's where I was concerned, because that doesn't seem like that doesn't, to me, seem like the Bills team. Like, they like to have fun. And you're right, Dan. Maybe questioning effort is a stretch, but I do believe that the team, in pivotal plays that we've seen them make so many times before, they've looked lost, or they've looked not as aggressive, or maybe in some cases even too aggressive, and that's hurting on other ends. So it just seems like a team that lost their identity.
Jenna, what I wanted to add is the defense plays as a group sort of like Tremaine Edmonds plays. They have talent. We know they can do things, but I see Edmonds as a guy who's, for whatever reason, hesitant, and not just playing loose and not just, getting to the ball carrier. He's sort of thinking and then adjusting. So it comes across maybe as a lack of knowledge of the defense, or a lack of, I think they need to, as the coaches will say, play a little more downhill, go after the ball, be a little more aggressive. If you give up a big play, like Sunday, you give up a big play against the Jets, okay, they can live with it, because I think they'll score a lot against the Jets. Be a little more aggressive. Try to force the hand a little bit more, something they really have not been doing.
Yeah. But you know what's a great cure? Is playing the winless Jets on Sunday. The Jets. We did a poll as well. Mike put out a poll earlier today just talking about what you want to see from this Jets game Sunday. Best replies will be on Let's Talk Football Live, so let's get to it. But blowout, need an easy one, winning by 60.7% there. Yeah, I think I get where Bills Mafia is. Let's go to our first comment, too. I believe this is a pretty good one as well. I know a lot of fans are really passionate about this, but Johnny W. saying, I need to see a rebound game for Josh and signs of life from the D. Won't judge on the final score, but rather how the game looks and feels. While I would think you would want to see a blowout, I think that's absolutely the case.
This is a very tricky situation on Sunday for the Bills. It's not.
It's a lose-lose.
It's not full lose-lose, but it's pretty close to lose-lose. Because if the Bills win,
then they can only beat
average,
bad teams.
And they play average, it's going to be like, well, they didn't score enough points. And if they blow them out and look perfect, they're still going to be like, well, you played the Jets.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky situation there. Mike, you've got that look on your face like you really want to say something.
Well,
it's just his face.
It's not lose-lose as in, look, you got to win the game. First and foremost, you win the game. It's still October. If you look back and say, well, we only beat the Jets by 7 points or 10 points, it won't matter when they play the Patriots the next week. Mm-hmm. But you are also, as a team, looking to regain that confidence a little bit. So if the worst thing somebody can say about you is, oh, yeah, you won 40-3, but it was only the Jets, you'll live with that, right?
This is
a bad
Duke
team.
playing,
you blew them out. Get a little confidence back.
Yeah, this is Duke playing Abilene Christian.
Yeah.
This is the game where they invite you over and into Cameron Indoor to kick their teeth in and get everybody in.
As a Syracuse basketball fan, I've seen plenty of those games.
Josh Allen should not be in this game in the final two drives.
Yes.
To calm down, for everybody to calm down.
Yeah.
Josh Allen needs to be taken out of the game with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Because the game's put away and you don't.
I was going to say,
I feel like you should reference that. Let's get to our next comment as well. Is there any more comments that you had, Dan? Just curious.
No.
No? Okay. All right, PJ say, well, considering how our entire defense is injured, might as well just hope for a win. PJ with the confidence there. But, Mike, I mean, there are a lot of injuries, and we're going to get to them in a little bit, but that does make sense. There have been a lot of injuries, and it is the NFL, and things come at you fast.
Yeah, I mean, teams play with injuries. They miss Milano when he's not out there, obviously. But, I mean, depth is part of what you need on a team, especially on several weeks. Mm-hmm. You know, Milano's been out. I get it. Trey White, not 100%. I get it. But, you know, you look at the Cowboys and the Eagles, two of the teams that I know pretty well. I mean, the amount of injuries those teams are playing with is staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bills have some banged up guys, but for the most part, I mean, they've got, 90% of their regular lineup is playing?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, yes, Milano is a key guy. I get it. But you've got to adjust when you're missing somebody. And they like the term, next man up, which is true. And in the past, they've gotten good play in those categories. You know, it's funny. You guys mentioned Lorenzo. I mean, a couple of times last year, whether he filled in for Milano, filled in for Edmonds, he knows the position so well that it wasn't like he was a superstar, but he gave you competent play at those positions. I don't think they're getting that right now.
I feel like he also gave so much confidence. Like, he would be the guy that's like, I've seen so many games, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but stay the course. Because...
Well, yeah, he was never too high and he was never too low. That was Lorenzo. A couple comments on Facebook as well. Beth Licata Clement saying she agrees that the Bills are unsure of themselves. So she's smart because she agrees with me. Paul DiMitropoulos says, if Sunday's game isn't a complete blowout by the Bills, I'm going to have to redecorate my panic room. That's a really good comment.
That deserves some kudos.
There are some questionable things there. Yeah. And I know on the Facebook, on the YouTube channel, the chat there over there, some people are talking about maybe bringing in Earl Thomas. I just don't think they touch Earl Thomas with a 10-foot pole. Yeah. He didn't work out in Baltimore, which is a very, very good franchise there.
Yeah.
Question marks as well. We haven't talked about it. There's something going on behind the scenes that nobody wants to talk about, apparently going on in Buffalo, because Quinton Spain gets released.
Yeah.
And I said before, I think when we went to the draft show, Quinton Spain, I thought, was one of the biggest key re-signings that the Bills had to do.
Yeah.
He didn't allow a single sack last year, played every single snap, and 6 games into the season, he's released. He's sending out cryptic tweets saying that when everything comes out, like, if only they knew why I'm leaving, but I'll leave it at that. Like, weird stuff. I mean, and I don't know. It's very, like you said yesterday, the team didn't seem exactly like themselves. I'm not going to try and be detective or conspiracy theory guy here, but, like, they're clearly not themselves right now.
Yeah, I would agree. And Mike, how much do you look into, I mean, social media is obviously social media, but I feel like we really haven't, in these last couple years with McDermott, seen a lot of players do that route and say things like that.
No, he was on the way out the door. Exactly what the reason is. This Quinton Spain one is strange. It isn't just that they cut him. It's that he sort of went away after the first 2 games of the year. I mean, this guy started every game the year before, every game the year before that, every game the 2 years before that for the Titans. Like, he just doesn't leave the field. And, you know, you just had the injury to Cody Ford. Like, you would be looking to bring in a guy like Quinton Spain right now. And, I know Feliciano is coming back and all, right? And they'll maybe even get him on the field. But I guess I looked at it as an odd thing. And then the whole idea that they couldn't trade him. Well, the deadline's not here yet. And there's some desperate teams. You know, and you figure if somebody even flips for a 6th-round pick, like, okay, a 7th-round pick, you'd take something for him. And then all of a sudden he's gone. So I thought that was odd. And then Brandon Beane coming out, his comments were basically like, all is well. We love Quinton. And then he's gone. Yeah. So I thought it was strange. It may just be a blip. You know, they go back to playing, maybe get Cody Ford back, Feliciano plays. They get better play out of Winters, and then nobody cares. But have you guys seen a big push out of this offensive line when they're trying to run the ball?
No, Mike, and that's what's so funny. It was like people weren't too upset when Star Lotulelei opted out because they said, well, we've got so much depth. And it's like, yeah, you'd still like to have Star to go along with the rest.
What is Marv Levy's line?
Yeah,
depth is a great thing until you have to use it.
And you look around the league and that somebody's going to pick up Quinton Spain very quickly.
Yeah.
And I look around the team, and Mike, you said it best. You know who could use a guy like Quinton Spain? The Buffalo Bills could use a guy like Quinton Spain. And it's very confusing in that respect. And like I said, you just don't see this out of a Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane organization. Where they spend the money. It wasn't a great contract in Quinton Spain's side, but he signed a 3-year, $15 million contract, and then he plays 4 games, gets his foot injured. He's a
But that was even weird.
Right, but then all of a sudden, right before the game, they said his foot acted up, and then he was out.
Yeah, he just alerted the team to a foot issue. It's weird. Let's go to our final comment, though, about the Jets.
Hey, I mean, look.
What, Mike?
Say this could be on Spain too. You know, him talking about the foot and not playing, and who knows exactly what went on behind the scenes. I'm just surprised it played out the way it did. But again, it could end up being an afterthought if they get quality play out of the guys that are going to be there. But you need offensive linemen, and right now they're down 1 guy.
Yeah. Drama. All right, let's go to our tweet. Well done. Don Tracy saying, a win is a win. Getting the boys to play a solid and mistake-free game is crucial moving forward. That said, a loss would be humiliating. Humiliating.
There it is.
Which was also humiliating me trying to say that. But I agree. I mean, you can't lose to the Jets, right? Like,
you also can't squeak by the Jets. And let's not forget that last year when the Bills were 4-1 at this time and were facing a winless Miami Dolphins team led by Ryan Fitzpatrick, came into Buffalo and then led that game in the 4th quarter.
And then Trey White had the pick, momentum swing. But
But let's not forget,
it took the defense making a play.
It is so easy to say that, like I've been known to place a couple of wagers in the NFL, and when you do that, you always look for a team that at their lowest, a lot of times, the talent level is still so good that it's a fine line between winning and losing in coaching and preparation.
Absolutely.
Like the Jets still have NFL talent on their team. It's not like they're Alabama.
Still professionals.
Yeah, they're not like they're Alabama. They're not a college team or a high school team. You still need to prepare, and Sean McDermott was adamant about that. And Mike, we joked around about it yesterday at our blog that Sean McDermott usually sits back during his Zoom interviews during the week. This week he was like, we don't take anybody lightly, and that we respect every opponent, and the Jets are a good team, and all these things.
The Jets.
This would be the week that the Bills are reeling. The Jets just got embarrassed. How is Adam Gase still their head coach?
I don't know.
They're 12-point favorites. This is. Don't do the doomsday though.
Don't do the doomsday.
All
right. We're gonna go to the injury report. You need some time to cool off.
All right.
Our injury report is sponsored by UR Medicine, sports medicine. Now it's quite a bit of injuries as the team practicing again today. John Brown did not practice. Tyrell Dodson did not practice. Cody Ford did not practice. Matt Milano limited. Josh Norman, this was interesting. He is limited. And then Trey White back dealing with that. He is limited. But plenty of big names on that list. Yeah, Dan.
Yeah.
Mike, I mean.
And Trey White with the back went back on the list.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
what was interesting. Like, I think he was off of it,
Yep.
and then he's back on it again. So, it could just be more of like a version of a maintenance day kind of thing. But, it's a Thursday practice getting ready for the game Sunday, and he was limited. But, hey, they're all banged up. I mean, that's that time of the year.
Yeah.
But I feel like it also seems worse this year because of how good they had it last year. Like last year, the injury report was clean.
Yeah.
Every week there was nobody on it.
It was comically,
and if you didn't know, Mike's an Eagles fan, and the Eagles won a Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And Mike knows all about injuries to the Eagles.
Yeah, absurd amount of injuries.
I think
They
Aaron
even
Bond
had
was
him,
that wide
obviously had him
receiver.
that year. Well, I mean, this year is crazy. But what we've talked about is that the Bills have been, I mean, they do a lot of things right. Their training is great. Their rehab is great. They have the facilities. They have a mindset, all those things. But at a certain point, guys just get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, Trey White hurts his back in a game. Like, there's only so much. Milano has dealt with a lot of stuff. Like, there's only so much you can do. But it starts to impact you. And then, we've talked a lot about Edmonds. He's playing, but is he 100%? They keep referencing the injury. So it's a very real thing going into the game. But again, you're playing a Jets team that's had guys traded, opted out, never there in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bad franchise and a bad team. They may get Sam Darnold. Looks like Darnold's going to play. So that obviously is better than Joe Flacco. But, Jamison Crowder is banged up. He didn't practice today, and he always does well against the Bills. So there's no way that Jets team should beat the Bills. Just no way.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we're going to get to our predictions in a second. But first, here's a word from our sponsor, Greg Connors.
And look, it's all about winning the AFC East. You win the AFC East, you get into the tournament. When you get into that tournament, you can catch lightning in a bottle. Anything can happen. And that's really what I think the focus needs to be on. I think hopefully they're learning a lot from these two losses. And then they can begin to implement and apply what they've learned in this Jets game and then build on that moving forward over these next couple of weeks. But right now, can the Bills win the AFC East? I definitely think they can. And that really should be the focus now to prepare them for that tournament. And then once you get in there, magic can happen.
Ooh, the magic can happen. They are, of course, in first place in the AFC East. Mike, I want to start with you, though, for your picks coming up this week after we correctly picked the Chiefs game last week.
Yeah. Again, it's what we do, Jenna. I like the Bills. I like the Bills to win this one. I like them to win it handily. I know all the pitfalls of going in and maybe being a little off, and the Jets are not good. I think they've lost you talk about even like that Dolphins team last year. They had a first-year head coach. They're all trying to prove something to him. Everybody knows Gaze is gone. They've traded players this week. I think the Bills win, and I think they win it handily. I have Buffalo taking it 36-16.
Okay, nice. Dan, what about you?
Yeah, I was wrong last week. That's fine. That's fine with me. Look, the Bills win this game. They win it easily. There shouldn't be any consideration. It may not be as pretty. Like we talked about how the Chiefs game, the score looked closer than what the game was. I think we'll find a similar instance of that this week, but the Bills will be on the right side.
Yeah.
The offense should get going. I think the defense may let up a little bit at the end, give up a who cares touchdown. The Bills and Sean McDermott have too much pride in their ultimate goal, as you heard Greg Connors say, that they are on bigger things. It is still a divisional game. The Bills still haven't. It's been a while since the Bills have swept the Jets. They are still having a lot to play for here. And we're still going to talk about Darnold versus Allen head-to-head record. Bills win easily, 30-20.
Yeah, I agree. I think last week when we decided, Mike and I, to pick the Chiefs, it was because of how motivated that team was coming off a loss. And I'm going to say the same thing this time about the Bills. Buffalo losing 2 straight. I think it is a look in the mirror type of moment for this team, and especially going up against a Jets team that they do know so well, and also this New York team, as we know, with Adam Gase. There's so many questions. There's so many players that, are in and out. This roster is not as talented as the Bills, and because of that, I have Buffalo winning it 24-7. I just think that, we're all in agreement here. I think this is a game that the Bills should win, and the Bills, let's be real, they should win this and win this pretty strongly.
I'm only 2 games back. That's good.
Look at you.
Yeah. 5-1 is so lame to have that as a record.
They've only played 6 games.
Yeah. So I'm 50%.
I'm actually mad because we jokingly picked the Titans game. I wish I actually put in effort for that one.
You still would have picked the Bills.
I don't think I would have.
Oh.
I think you're surprised.
Hold on. So, Jenna, your effort in that Titans game was similar to the Bills' defense.
I was to say, yeah, it was not. Well, I had it being a forfeit. I had it being 2-0.
No effort.
No effort. Yeah, it was a push.
That's right.
No, I'm a little mad, but at least I'm not Dan, so it's okay.
PJ Tej on YouTube says 50-0 and Gase keeps his job. I think that's a Bills dream.
I think that would absolutely be the Bills' dream. No panic room either.
No panic room. That's the big goal.
By the way, one thing is usually Greg Williams sends his defense to take a cheap shot at the other team. I think this week he sends his defense to take a cheap shot at Adam Gase on the sidelines.
Heard it here first. All right, we'll have plenty more coverage coming up on BuffaloPlus.com, as well as our YouTube page, Buffalo Plus. Thank you so much for watching. For Mike Catalana from his limited day out of the office, Dan Fates, I'm Jenna Cottrell. We'll catch you next week, and make sure to check out BuffaloPlus.com. Thanks for watching.